You are tuned in to that praisey station, praise.fm, where we get our praise on. 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Momentum Shift. I know you guys are like, where has she been? I've been on, been off. There's been this crazy time of the year, graduation time. You got people doing family stuff. It's been a celebratory time, really kind of the whole month of May, between conferences, end of the school year activities. For those of us who are still in mommy and grandma land, I want to give a shout out to two of my granddaughters. First of all, on a couple weeks ago, Aya made two. I was giving her a shout out from Porter, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, Texas. She had her 2-year-old birthday party, and Ariella Alfred actually graduated from kindergarten. So we were hanging out. Yes, people got lots of high school graduations, college graduations. It's been such a festive time of the year. And now we're entering into the election cycle. And Reverend Williams, who is my longtime friend and classmate, I can't wait till you guys meet him. I had the opportunity to be a guest on his show during the Women's Month. I forget what it's called. There's so many months. Women's History Month. Yeah. That was in March. We just came out of Mental Health Awareness Month, I think. Every month, there's something major going on. So it's kind of hard to keep up with. But I want to welcome you guys, share, because this is going to be good. He is coming at us all the way from Long Island, New York. So he's up late, y'all. So I appreciate, anybody who comes on the show, it is a commitment because all my folks seem to be East Coast people. Central and East Coast. Well, I grew up in the Central time zone. So even though I've been in Arizona I've been here 21 years, long time. Yeah, 21 years. We came here February 2001. My baby was 3 months old. So this is really the only place he knows. So he's kind of a native, born by way of South Georgia Medical Center in Valdosta, Georgia. 3 months old, moved here. So he's pretty much only been here. And so I want to welcome you guys. In fact, welcome Artist Singleton, my son Jalen's godfather, just hopped on from Valdosta, Georgia. If you haven't had an opportunity to hear him, Reverend Williams, this is a guy you really want to know. Okay. He is a retired prison warden / author, counselor, man of God, powerful wealth of knowledge. I have known him, I don't even remember how long. We've known each other a long time. Mm-hmm. We met years ago when I first moved to Valdosta back in May. We met in October 1992. So we have a long-standing relationship, but I've just watched God do so many things. So I just want to encourage you guys to keep sharing. I want to give a shout out to my husband, Anthony Alfred. He just made 53 on Sunday. We've celebrated all weekend. We went to Castor and Coasters, which I had not been to Castor and Coasters since March 2001, I think. And it was the same Castors and Coasters that it was in 2001. They have not made any changes. Lady Ray, nope, I did not ride any rides. I had no intention. Well, boo me, I didn't. I saved my riding for when I'm at real amusement parks like Universal Studios and, those kind of amusement parks. Hi, Terry Williams. Terry Simmons Williams is in the place. I should have brought her on here. I should have had her come on. I really should have. I'm gonna have Terry come on because she only hops on here when. Now I'm gonna let him tell it. I'm not gonna even, they have a personal thing going on. So she hops on when I'm hooked up with her husband. That's when her ex-husband hops on. But they made something beautiful together. I saw them that wonderful pictures of Dominic the other day. God is doing so great things in him. And it's just good to celebrate all the accomplishments that our children, God is blessing us through our children. And the seeds, this is evident that the seeds that we sow, they grow.
Yeah.
Even if it feels like they're not listening, they are listening. And not only are they listening, they're doing. I'm so proud of all of our children. Our children are doing well. My oldest son, Josh, is doing amazing. He and his wife, Crystal, they both are doing amazing. They actually went to high school together, didn't see each other for years, reconnected in college. She was in one state. In fact, she was going to Oakwood in Seventh-day Adventist University in, I think it's Huntsville, Alabama. She was going to college there. He was at ASU. They reconnected on social media and they knew each other in 9th grade.
Yeah. Wow.
And I hadn't seen each other in years, reconnected, and now she's my daughter and the mother of my grandchildren. So you never know. They rode the same bus together in 9th grade, never dated, none of that. And then look at what God did. Several states apart. So if it's meant to be, God will certainly, he has a way of bringing things back full circle. So I just want to welcome you guys to the Momentum Shift. It's an honor to have you guys on. Keep sharing, because he probably don't even know why I invited him on. But this man is a man of God, a powerful man of God. He's been preaching as long as I've known him. He prayed like a grown man when we were in 4th, 5th grade. I had never heard no child pray like that. And I'm messing with him because I have a t-shirt on and he got a suit on at 10:30 at night. Don't know why. No one knows why. I'm not sure if Tamara Chase is on tonight. I met her when I was on your show. I think she's your church member.
Yes.
Or she's connected to your ministry. She actually supports my show every week.
Very good.
Every week.
Yeah.
So I am just so grateful. That's why I say you never know how God connects people. I don't think she's missed the show since then.
Wow.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Literally, she has been, and not only is she supporting my show, she's supporting other shows on this platform.
Good.
Because when I'm often on there, I see her in the comments.
Yeah.
She's on live with me. So I just want to tell you thank you for that openly. There's someone on by the name of Erica Mitchell. Good evening, Erica.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome you to Momentum Shift. Keep sharing because we want people to come in. Praise.fm radio is doing mighty things. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Lady Rain. She makes it happen here. Every week she works a full-time job. She's the owner of this station. She does so much, man. She has a litany of responsibilities and things going on, but she shows up for every one of these shows. She does a show before she goes into the university in the mornings and does evening shows. So she has long days. So I want to commend her for that and thank her for all of the excellence that she does. She does everything she does in excellence. My girlfriend, Lynette, I give you a shout out. Hello, girl. She's going to be a guest coming on. She has a powerful testimony. God literally brought her back to life. She died numerous times and here to tell about it. And that was just a few months ago. And so God is just doing amazing things. He's still in the blessing season. So welcome, Pastor, Reverend, Doctor. I don't know if you got your PhD yet, but
no.
I can do it. Yeah, you may as well get at it. Get busy. You behind the curve on that one.
Yeah.
You mean I did something before you did? Oh,
you sure did. You sure did.
I didn't accept the call to preach before you did, though.
No, I don't believe so.
No, I know I didn't. Trust me. I know I didn't. That he's been preaching as long as I've known him. Tell the people a little bit about you, Reverend Williams. And what you're doing in, all parts of your life, like kind of let the people know who you are.
Yeah. And first of all, let me say thank you for the invite to be on your show tonight and be a part of what you're doing out in the state of Arizona and Phoenix area and the ministry that you're carrying on, Dr. Drea. I am proud of you, if I can say that, even though I'm your peer. We came from some some beginnings in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Even though I was born in Pontiac, Michigan, I was a year old when my mother and father separated, and we moved back to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I eventually would meet you at elementary school. And I grew up in the house with my mother and my two grandparents, my grandfather, my grandmother, my maternal grandparents. Of course, I'm looking through the lens of reflection and through the perspective of a 53-year-old who will be 54 in September. And when I think about the fact that my parents did separate, obviously that's not something you ever want to talk about and see it as something positive in the nature of that event. But being with my grandparents and having the kind of upbringing that I had, it was God at work. Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of them that love God and that are the called according to his purpose. So I can say that those beginnings were great in the sense that looking back on them now, I know what God gave to me during that time. I grew up in the Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church, 9700 Scenic Highway right there in North Baton Rouge. You know that area very well. Your father was a member of that church. That was where I got my spiritual nurture under the leadership of the Reverend Dr. Jesse B. Bilberry, and went to all of the East Baton Rouge Parish schools. After we left Seventh-day Adventist, I was in school there with you in 5th grade and 6th grade. I think you moved on, but we were at least.
I went to Glasgow.
Right.
Yeah, I went to Magnet School that year.
Yeah, Seventh-day Adventist, Berean Seventh-day Adventist in 5th grade, and that's where I got a chance to really see the dynamic combination of education and spirituality put before us as young children at ages 9, 10, 11. This was obviously one of the landmark moments of my life because it began to sew together some of the material that had already been deposited in me by my grandparents and my mother and those church mothers and fathers at the Mount Pilgrim Church, and going on to middle school, graduating from Central High School, Southern University, New Orleans Baptist.
You went to Central? I didn't know that's where you graduated from.
Yeah, I don't say that out loud. But
my baby sister graduated from Central. I think I think she did. I think she graduated from Central.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember exactly now all of the intricate details involving that particular moment. When I say that moment, I mean around 1980, 81. I graduated in 86, but the busing, desegregation effort caught speed in the Southland, and at least in that part of the Southland and the East Baton Rouge Parish school system. And all of that was emanating out of Brown versus Board in 1954. And finally, we were getting these little cards in the mail telling us what schools we had to go to. And I remember friends of mine who were right across one street. They were going to Baker High, which is where I really wanted to go if I had to go to school.
Of course.
My area, I ended up going to Central, so 15, 20 miles away. Yeah.
But you know what's interesting about that is, and it's funny because of course we'd all find ourselves at Southern University football games. So we all saw each other. That's the funniest part. Yeah. Now that I look back on it, we would connect every week during football season.
Yeah.
If no other time. And there were certain parties. We always had a connection of friends that people were connected with each other. And so even though we may go long periods of time and not see each other, but Southern University football games was the one time of the year that we would all run into each other. It didn't matter what high school you went to, unless your family was a Grambling night. And I don't even think that mattered really, because in Baton Rouge, I don't remember it. It looked like we ran into the same people every week at the games, at least the home games. If nothing else, you knew at halftime. Once halftime was over, I think we were all forced to stay in our seats We all had season tickets and all of that kind of stuff. But every one of the kids knew that they had to sit with their parents until halftime.
That's right.
Once the halftime show happened, then we would all hang out. That was the hangout place, and all the parents were the ones left in the stands, and all we did was walk around and converse. It became the meeting place. We built community. Right. And so it wasn't even about, and I'm glad you brought up the whole thing about Brown versus Board of Education, because unfortunately, in the state in which I reside, Black history has become a thing of the past.
Yeah. Wow.
My son, who is 21 years old, has not really been educated through our school system about much of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. My mom and I have conversations about that. Yeah. Terry said, halftime was everything.
Right.
For the folks way back in the balcony, way up at the top, they don't get it. There is nothing like Black college football halftime.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that kind of halftime show. And so I laugh when I'm on TikTok and I see people doing, almost kind of like the where they're sliding across, and I laugh. I'm like, okay, drum major's been doing this for years. That's something we grew. I mean, that's just part of being a drum major. If you can't do that, right, you will not become a drum major. There's certain things, certain criteria you have to know how to do in order to become a drum major. And in Black college football halftime show, no one cares. I mean, I guess some people do, but most people care about the halftime show. Yeah. In the other cultures at halftime, that's when everybody go get snacks. Not at historically Black universities. No, you get snacks after halftime. You get them before halftime or after halftime. You do not miss the halftime show.
Football
so
game.
It's interesting.
It's consequential. The football game is consequential.
Exactly.
It's Black college football. It is.
Black college football is about halftime. It's about the band. Right. Yeah, that's what it's about. And the halftime show. And of course, we want the championships and whatnot. And I don't know how much football I don't want to put you on the spot, but that made me think about the whole thing with Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Mark Cuban or whatever. Do you know anything about that? Because I missed some part of that conversation and I was a little confused. Sort of, but not really. The
Mark Cuban, Deion Sanders engagement, I'm not familiar with.
You're not?
No.
Well, there seems to be some issue, I guess, from what I gather, about recruitment. Yeah. And us choosing to go to, there's Minister Charlotte Savage is watching.
Yes, my minister here at First Baptist Church.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming on, Minister. Thank you so much, Mother. Thank you.
This is awesome. You got folks all the way out on the East Coast hitting us up out here in the West Coast. Y'all East Coast hitting West Coast. Dr. Rain, look what you're doing. Look at this New York chick. The New York chick, though. See, but if you hadn't come, I don't know. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna get on this side of the camera one day. She gonna stop telling me no. We're gonna figure that out. So, but there seems to be some kind of controversy about. I guess he made some comment about us recruiting people into our own schools. And and there's a big thing out there, and it's not just people of lighter complexions that have a problem with it. Some in our own community have a problem with it because we don't think it's relevant anymore to have historical Black universities. And I find that it's generally, it seems to come from people who've never attended one. Right. There's nothing like it.
Right.
And I remember, because you were talking about the whole desegregation thing, I actually remember not knowing that there was a difference until I went to Glasgow.
Yeah.
Because I went to Berean. I don't know where you were going to school before you came to Berean. That's the only school I ever went to. I've only been to 2 worlds in my life. I've been to all historically Black institutions. I've been to the multicultural when I went to magnet school from 6th through 12th grade. I went back to Southern for 2 years, joined the Air Force, and then I matriculated at a white school in the South, in South Georgia. Whole different world.
Yeah.
Two different worlds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you at Central? Because my cousin got caught up in that same thing you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it was a very trying moment because of the instructions I received at home was you love everybody, care about everyone, don't return the negative energy of racism or prejudice back towards people, and that was the way my mother and my grandparents approached the issue. However, both of my grandfathers, my father's father and my mother's father, shared with me the arduous ordeals that they had to deal with coming up in the 1930s and 40s South. My father's father in Mississippi, my mother's father in the state of Louisiana, of course, and my grandmother's, not my father's mother, not too much, but my mother's mother. They shared with me the life that was on this side of the rigid lines of segregation, and some of the features that came along with them having to live under subjugation in this way. So going to Central High, I had a presence of mind that I was dealing with whites that had a historical view of us, a racialized view of us, if you will. And I'd have to say, I sort of sometimes every now and then, I reflect back on those days in the early 80s, 83, 84, 86, 85, 86. And I wish I knew now what I knew then, but obviously that's the way we think about most things. But it was, looking back on it now, but not able to perceive certain subtle features of the racial lines drawn there. I went through my own phases in that school of dealing with twisted and racist ideas about my person and who I was among my peers. I noticed even then the lack of nurture and connectiveness that we had with our teachers at Berean. Mrs. Paraway, Mrs. Prentice, Mr. Green, who I had in 6th grade, there was a connection there that I also saw at Southern University. I believe my son is seen now at Morehouse College in Atlanta, where there's a connection there. There is a bond that is developed, not just because we're Black, but because of the understanding of the way we have to travel in this country. And Central High, it was, you were ushered in because the law said you had to go. And the principals, guidance counselors, and teachers met you with that kind of tacit connection with you. So it was an ordeal that I've learned from, and still see some shadows of it today, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's interesting you would say that, because like I said, I had only gone to Berean.
Yeah.
So I've actually never been to public school.
Yeah.
Because I only went to Berean, and then I got in the magnet school system, which is a portion of the public school, but it was more like semi-private an experience because of the fact that you had to apply to go, you had to be accepted. It was sort of the next best thing to private school. And it was also multiracial. Right. My first opportunity doing that, because I grew up in the park. My mom had grown up in the park. She actually graduated from Capitol High School. So my mom actually is, I guess you could, and she went to high school with obviously my dad and Terry's mom, and they all, they went to school together, so they've known each other. These are lifetime people they've known pretty much their whole lives because they went to school together. And that's one of the things that was different about community schools. And I do see some benefit to what's going on here in Arizona, although our culture is not being introduced like what we're used to. But one thing I found that has happened again, at least I'm experiencing out in the suburbs where I live, you have community schools. So pretty much the kids that you live in the neighborhood with, you go to school with. Unless your family elects to go to charter schools, you actually attend school with the same group of people. Yeah. So because of the district, there's so many school districts here, is unbelievable. It's hard to even keep up with. There's so many. Yeah. So you have certain district that feeds into another district for middle and high school. You have your elementary school districts, then you may have your high school district. Right. So for the most part, you're going to know a good bit of the people that go to school with you. Well, that could be a positive and a negative, of course. There's always positive and negatives to everything, but the whole thing with desegregation and busing, we come back from the break, because I know you're very active in political arena, and you stay pretty abreast about what's going on in the community. And I don't think that it's all indicative just to New York. No, what's happening in New York obviously is happening everywhere else. So I'd like for us to talk about, after the break, a little bit about how you are utilizing the experiences of our past, because you were a product of busing. I guess in a sense, so was I, because in 6th grade, actually, is when I remember it starting. Yeah. At least out where I lived. I don't know how long it took to get where you were, but out in the part where I grew up.
Yeah, that's about the time, 6th grade going into 7th grade.
Going in, we became a product of it. And I had friends like you who literally, you live on one side of the street, you got to go to Capitol. Right. You live right across the street, you had to go to Bel Air. Yeah. So I know people that were affected with that, and it created a huge thing, because the community that we had built, all of a sudden we no longer had that anymore. So it wasn't even really about race as much as it was about building community. Yeah. And so when we come back, I'd like for us to kind of unpack a little of that and see how you've taken that experience and what you're doing now with it. So in a few minutes, you guys don't go off. In fact, I want you to share, invite people to come in, and we're going to come back with Reverend Roger Williams as he shares a little bit about how we've navigated this world called life and became a part of our building community within another community, pretty much, finding community. So we'll be back. You guys stay tuned.
Have you ever wanted to host your own inspirational radio show? Have you been called to inspire and spread God's word? Please contact Alicia Rain for more info.
Are you the next great independent artist, but you're looking for a distribution opportunity? Well, sign with us at Praise.fm Music Distribution. Yes, the 2021 Stellar Award nominated Praise.fm can handle it all. We understand the narrow road leading to getting your music heard at the right time at the right place can be tough. So send your music and video files to fmpraise@gmail.com. That's fmprayz@gmail.com. Praise.fm Music Distribution, affiliated with Sony Music and the Orchard Distributors.
Be on top of the world again. Just hold on to his unchanging hand. Be a part of the plan that he laid out. Live life up till it fade out. Fading, fading, fading away. Fading, fading away.
Give me 5 words with a meaning. Over 10,000 tongues when it sound like screaming. Scenes from the nightlife, whole team glimmering the keys. Both room and a whip for the evening. Midnight air when I breathed in. Feel the devil's breath on my neck like he leaned in. Got her too high, hit a tailspin. Want nobody in the pit with me when I fell in. Caught a L then, jailed in.
Hey, Praise family, meet Service Disabled Navy veteran Howard Martell. He's a Christian, family man, and business owner of Howard Superstore. Howard, tell us more about the store.
Some of our top sellers include Gen Mink. It's 100% pure mink oil and provides exactly what your skin needs. Gen Java Gourmet Arabica CBD coffee with an unbelievably good taste. Jenny's Roll-On Pain Relief. Gen Health, which supports a healthy immune system. Ultimate Keto, Ultimate Body Formula. Gen Pet Max, Total Pet Health for cats and dogs. And Gen Ties, Clean Hands. We're also super enthused to bring Gen Energy to the consumers. This is a power factor correction unit installed in your home or business, and it absolutely helps reduce high energy bills from power companies.
Learn more about these amazing products. Visit howardsuperstore.com. That's howardsuperstore.com.
There is an exciting new book out named Transition by author Crystal Sauls. This book talks about her changes from childhood to adulthood and other things that happened in her life. This book is also a testament that anyone can turn a negative life into a great life. Transition has recently become a bestseller on Amazon. You will find exciting and realistic reviews about this best-selling book. So, visit thetransitionbook.com and order your autographed copy of Transition today.
Shop Soulful Touch Roses for your personally designed rose at soulfultouchgifts.etsy.com.
Unique Sounds Music Group presents a music fest on Carnival Freedom, January 26th through the 30th, 2023. Sailing from Orlando, Florida to Nassau and Princess Cay, Bahamas. Reserve your spot today with just $25 by contacting booking at uniquesounds.com.
Attention! Music Fest has opened its doors of opportunity for a short period of time to musical talents to perform. For more information about participating in the Music Fest shows, please contact Let's Connect at A2ZChristlife.com or www.praise.fm.
Welcome back to the Momentum Shift. I am here chatting it up with my friend and I'll say ministry colleague now. I can say that as well. Sure. Reverend, I'm going to say Reverend Doctor, because I'm speaking that into existence. That needs to happen. I can't believe I got my PhD before him. I do not.
Well, you did.
Y'all don't know. Y'all really don't know. This man, I just can't believe it. That's all I'm going to say. I would have thought by now you would have been Reverend Doctor.
Not yet.
Okay. So are you working on it?
I'm working on it. But
okay, cool.
I'm working on some other stuff too. So
no, I got it. Hey, I understand. I can't even believe I'm an ordained chaplain. I don't even believe that either. Or that I'm even an ordained minister at all. Because I'm like, this was nowhere in my world. But God has a way of doing. He knows, and something you said I had forgotten. Our lives paralleled each other a lot because actually my mom and dad divorced when I was a baby. Mm-hmm. And we lived in the house with my grandmother, who was a God-fearing woman, my grandparents. Mm-hmm. I lived in her home until I was 14, actually. Mm-hmm. And my mom, we've been talking about how the cultural dynamics and thoughts, Southern thinking and whatnot, for those who are just now joining us, we've been talking about how our lives were affected by busing, and we actually lived that. So we may not have lived it in, the generation before us, because my mom was a part of that generation.
Yeah.
But we got caught up in the desegregation order.
Yeah.
And it did affect our lives, because there were people, because we were talking about how most of us went to our community schools with people who looked like us.
Yeah.
And the relationship that you build, because you're building community with people, we lost that. We were the ones who lost that, because what really didn't happen is, I know they kind of tried to make it fair, but it never was. It was our kids that was getting up at 5 something in the morning to catch a bus to ride to a school across town, an hour away. Right. So our culture lost quite a bit doing that. Yeah. And so I said before the break that when we came back, I kind of wanted to touch upon that, because one of the things Reverend Williams said was that he got caught up in that. I was caught up in it too, but my mom made the decision to send me to the school I went to. So we were kind of doing it at the same time, but for different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
For different reasons, because it was also the same year that the magnet school system started in Baton Rouge.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about how your experiences with busing and building community within another community, and how that's impacted your life and up to what you're doing today, and how it's impacting you in ministry, professionally, personally, and whatnot?
Yeah, no doubt. And, I referenced the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision, which addressed and overturned what I guess many thought was settled law at the time, the 1896 Plessy versus Ferguson decision, that separate but equal was constitutional.
Yeah.
Well, when the court in 54 overturned that decision, it was all about making us all integrated. But what I found was it diversified our schools, but we were not integrated, because we saw integration was more about other things than just what was going on in the classroom. I remember my mother saying, my late mother now, she'll be dead 10 years this coming July. I remember her saying to me distinctly before I went to school at Central that she wanted me to get what the white kids were getting, and the textbooks and all the other resources that came with their schools that were not found in our schools in our Black neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And I understood that at the time the way I could as a 12, 13-year-old kid going back into public school outside of independent or private school. And I recall, what was happening really, though, is that we were put into situations, not so much where we were integrated, but we were assimilating. We had to behave a certain way. We had to be a certain way. And what we were doing now for another generation, mine and generations before, we were in a situation where we were trying to solidify our humanity. That we were on even par with the humanity of our white counterparts, and sitting in the classrooms with them and having to perform at a certain level. You could not match a white kid performing when he's performing at mediocrity, at a level of mediocrity. We learned early, and so did our foreparents, our foremothers and forefathers, that you had to perform at a level that was far greater than what they were performing. And we still see some of that now. White mediocrity can sometimes be given superstar status. And, we can perform at normal levels or average levels and go unnoticed. And
so you're talking about standards,
exactly.
Core values. Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things that I still see as a connective tissue to now, I'm dealing with it right here in the city of Glen Cove, where we're dealing with people who still see a separation. They desire to have a separation and everybody into their own enclaves. And yet we celebrate and we go out, and I hear politicians celebrating the diversity, but there's no real true integration, meaning that there is equality and equity. When I was talking to the police chief and deputy chief, along with a group of people that we had formed here in Glen Cove, the African American Commission on Social Justice, we were trying to talk to law enforcement about equitable policing, meaning that there are neighborhoods where there are certain needs that you need to be apprised of as officials of policing individuals. You need to be mindful of these particular needs. They might not be needs that you'll find in Muttontown or Locust Valley. These are areas where you have well-to-do, upper middle class, lower upper class whites living in those areas. Some of them, you go into their areas, you're going to see a whole different set of needs there. Mm-hmm. And when you go into Chocolate City, where the legacy of banning and negating opportunity for people of color continues and seems to be cemented, there are a different set of needs there. And what I've learned across the few years that I've lived is that we're still dealing with issues where we have diversity in almost every city in America, some more than others, but we're still very far away from an authentic integration of individuals of different backgrounds and cultures and races and ethnicities, because the same distribution of goods and services and opportunity. And I keep underscoring the word opportunity, because I think when many of our white brothers and sisters hear us talking, they think we want them to give us something. No, we don't want you to give us anything. What we are asking for is what we should not be asking for. And that is the opportunity to have the opportunity as you had it, distributed with equality and equitable distribution. And that's still the case. And what I learned was you can diversify that classroom, but you have to integrate the whole world in which your child grows up into, so that when they meet in the classroom, they're not coming in with disadvantages and advantages and create another problem altogether. Yeah.
You said something I think is powerful, and it made me think about, because I'm a social worker by trade. Okay. And I have had an opportunity to do a variety of things as a social worker. Mm-hmm. The one thing I refuse to do, though, is I refuse to do foster care placements, working with like Department of Child and Family Services and stuff, things of that nature. I had no desire to do that. And part of the reason why I didn't want to do that is because I didn't want to fall within that same stereotype, because historically what happens is they send us in to take away people's kids, mm-hmm. find places to put them. And I just couldn't deal with that. So I chose to not work with that. However, my older cousin is a social worker, and she's done it all. She's every kind of social worker you think of. She's done more of that family service type work. I opted to do mental health. I wanted to do mental health instead, because I know that was such a huge stigma. And my thoughts on that was, if we dealt with the disparities within our culture and our thoughts about mental health treatment and services, maybe more from a preventive standpoint. Because what I found, my mom actually worked, it was ACD, she worked on an adolescent unit. She's a nurse by trade. And as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I want to make sure I quote it right, but I think my mom was amongst one of the first group of Black nurses that ever worked at Baton Rouge General Hospital.
Wow.
Yes. And I can't remember what year it was, and she's downstairs, so I'm not going to yell at her in the show and say, "Mom, what year was that?" But they actually honored them. I think it was 3 or 4. I forget how many, but in my lifetime, my mom made history.
Yeah.
In the early 70s, like that doesn't even make sense.
Right.
But people who have not had to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Don't consider how what you're talking about opportunities. Simple things as being able to go into a hospital and receive treatment from people that look like you.
Yeah.
That are not just aides and cooks.
Right.
Or cleaning people.
Right.
And it's not that we're not smart, but like you said, if there is no opportunity, there were no junior colleges in Baton Rouge when I was growing up. There's plenty of them. There's one almost on every corner here in the Phoenix metro area.
Right.
You have several opportunities now. If you fast forward, there's online school. There's all kinds of opportunities, but we know online school is not cheap.
Right.
We're getting in more and more debt, which is displacing us in other ways.
Right.
The community college system, though, in places where that exists, it gives everybody an equal opportunity to get education within their community. I know here in Phoenix, I can't speak for other places, but that just didn't exist in Baton Rouge. You either went to Southern University or you went to LSU.
Right.
Or you went to Vogue Tech School.
Right.
That's
right.
it.
Yep.
And then transportation.
Mm-hmm.
I live in the suburbs. There's not a lot of, it's better now than it used to be, but it's inconvenient to catch the bus to get to work. So if you don't have a car, your opportunities become smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, it may not be that way in Glen Clove where you are, because it's New York, it may be different. However, Phoenix, city buses aren't going everywhere.
Yeah. Wow.
See, so it's the systemic stuff that people give no consideration to.
Right.
So a simple thing is having job opportunities. If I live and it takes me 2 hours one way because I got to catch 15 buses to get to work, am I going to want to do that every day for the rest of my life?
Right. Yeah.
So how are you addressing, what would you say to people who maybe we've got another 5 minutes left. Mm-hmm. What would you say to people who are having some of these same concerns? I know you're a pastor, you're a community leader. People are coming to you, you're involved like with the police chief, different ones, because you notice in our neighborhoods are more places of disadvantage, places of color or lower social economic status. You see more cops riding up and down the street. You see gas stations, liquor stores. This is what you see. You don't see a whole lot of big grocery stores, and you don't see things that think, oh, I have an advantage. If I want to be able to introduce my child to that, I have to inconvenience my child for that.
Yeah.
So how do you
Doctor,
do that?
one of the things that I'm dealing with here now, and it is very important for us to understand as members of the faith community, and I'm beginning to see on the national scene the evolution of what I'm seeing and has been called Christian nationalism. Now, Christian nationalism has a thought process that this is a Christian nation and that it is tied into the survivability of white identity, a European nation, that this nation belongs to the white race. That is now being expressed in subtle and implicit ways, and then at times, some explicit ways. A Congresswoman out of Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm sure some people have heard that name. Christian nationalism, she said, is what America needs. And what that breeds out is that we're dealing with white anxiety, and we're dealing with people of African descent and other people of other ethnic groups who are non-white trying to continue to establish themselves as a part of the American experience on equal and equitable basis. And I think the presidency of Mr. Obama sounded an alarm for those people who already had some measures of white anxiety, but then they were magnified and accentuated by his presidency. And that gave way to the election of Donald Trump in 2016. I don't think Donald Trump would have been elected president if Mr. Obama had not been elected president. It gave them the notion that this country could be run by someone other than a white person. What we've been dealing with right here in this city is the same on a local level, and probably in ways that are unprecedented in other municipalities and locales, is this growing large tide of concern that somebody's taking something away from them. And that we have this seething resentment growing underneath us here. And it's concerning, Dr. Drea. It's really concerning because there is, with the new mayor that we have in office now, there's some resistance to progress. People are dealing with extreme levels of growth when it comes to prices going up. We've had big development projects here in Glen Cove that have made property values go up. And so in a sense, people are getting priced out and leaving New York State. They're going down south. They're moving out. Going to Phoenix, yes. Georgia, they're going back to the Carolinas. They're going back to Mississippi. They're going back to Louisiana. They're going back to Tennessee. And this is one of the issues that we're dealing with. And I'm beginning to recognize more and more now that this is going to be a fight that has to do with spiritual forces, because this white anxiety and white identity politics is wrapped in a religious fervor that they have, and it gives religious signature, which points back to Black men hanging from southern trees, as Billie Holiday used to talk about, that strange fruit hanging from southern trees. And those whites would stand and snap pictures of a man hanging and then go to church the next morning with the blood on their overalls, clapping and singing Amazing Grace. And
actually use Christianity to justify it.
Exactly. And so that's what we're up against. And I see it right here in Glen Cove. And I'm trying to prepare our church now for understanding what the mission is in this age. We can't just transpose what the good old days were for us in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s. We have to understand the specific mission right now. And I believe, starting with the Black church, and I will say the Black church is responsible for making sure that the classical meanings of Jesus's declaration of the kingdom remain out front, because it is continuously being undermined and cut asunder by white identity politics wrapped in religion.
Yeah, and we did start to see a lot of that in the last two election cycle. Actually, it started with the Obamas, as a matter of fact. You're right. Yeah. Because I was attending a church, the church especially now that a lot of us have left denomination or in non-denominational world in particular, which those churches have a tendency to be more multicultural in nature. And so a lot of the things that we would have taught in the past, and it's not about the whole, we've tried to be so far to not be separate, the whole separate versus equal thing, like we did with busing. We're starting to do the same thing in the Christian faith. And losing community. And I believe that granted, I'm not by no stretch of the imagination saying that we need to be segregated, because that is not what I'm saying. So anyone who hears that, in fact, on the contrary, but I think a simulation, we need to get an understanding of what acculturation means, assimilation means. How do we take the word of God such as what you're saying, and keeping that as the forefront for moving forward in the things of God, because we are making an assumption that people have an understanding.
Yeah.
And they don't. So I know this is last minute, but this got too good. I hope you're available again, because I would like to pick this back up. Can we do this next week?
I'll be glad to do it with you next week. I'll be glad to do it. And this time I won't come with a suit and tie on.
Wear your suit, be you. Be you. No, you come and be you. I just like to give you a hard time about it. But I want to continue this discussion, because I know here in this state, it's election season. I don't know about everywhere else, but it's the gubernatorial election. And we got Senate, we got all kinds of elections going on. So the commercials are coming, and there's lots of information that's being put out there. And if we don't understand the undertone and the basis about it, I am pro-life all day, but I also understand about constitutionality. I can't even talk tonight. I'm just messed up. I understand how that works. And we have to be careful when people start using certain things, such as religion, to justify things, because religion is what justified slavery in this country for years. See, so we just have to be careful.
Right.
And so I'd like for you to come back next week so that we can move forward with this, because it's not just, we're not just talking about black and white. We're talking about what you called it. Christian identity politics. And I think we're on a slippery slope if we're not careful.
Amen. I'll be glad to, Doctor, come back and have this discussion with you. I'm honored to do it.
Okay, well, we'll come back next week with Reverend Roger Williams. I'm telling you guys, invite all your friends, because this man of God is in a whole, he is in it deep, not just preaching the gospel. He's working in politics. He knows what's going on. He's engaged in his community. And what he's talking about is not just indicative to New York City. In fact, most of the people of color that are in New York City are actually transplants. Their families moved from the South.
That's right.
That's how we got to Detroit. That's how we got to Chicago. We were looking for opportunities, but we finding ourselves back in the same situation we were in. Our ancestors were in years ago.
That's right.
History is repeating itself. But if you don't know history or understand history, you will think it's something else.
That's exactly right. So, very good.
Thank you so much, Reverend Williams, for coming. And we're going to push this and get this out next week. For next week, I'll get working on this tomorrow, because I want to fill this room, because you have a wealth of knowledge that's, I believe, will change our lives for this season and seasons to come.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Doctor, for the opportunity.
All right. You take care, sir. I'll see you next week. Thank you, Dr. Lady Rain.
Thank you.
See you guys next week. You guys share. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
You are tuned in to that praisey station, praise.fm, where we get our praise on,